months ago, we had a blessing tree here in the sanctuary. And our first activity with it was to write down a blessing on a piece of cardstock, colorful cardstock, and hang it on the tree. Then our second activity, some weeks later, was to think of someone who had been an example to us of faith in our lives. We then hung those green tags on the tree. And when we were done, we had transformed a barren branch with colorful blessings. Well, recently I had the opportunity to look at the tags that named the influential person in our spiritual life, and it was really interesting to me. While several people noted family members as influential, most wrote down the name of someone outside their family. Bob, Elsie, Martha, Pat, and so many more. And I was struck by the fact that we are guided. We are listened to, mentored, and witnessed to in our faith by so many people. Sometimes we see in hindsight, and sometimes we see in real time, that someone has taken the time to make a difference, to spend time with us, to speak the gospel truth to us, and to help us mature as Christians. And these people have left footprints in our lives to follow. They've gone before us, growing up in the faith, and then graciously made a way for us to follow. But to also learn to stand on our own. And when we follow the footsteps of the faithful in our lives, our journey to an ultimate oneness with God can be made a little clearer. And this is the kind of relationship we encounter with Elijah and his apprentice prophet, Elisha. Their story is not really much different than Moses and Joshua. There is mentoring, there are impossible rivers to cross, and the faithful mentor strikes the water and it parts from side to side. And of course, there is the passing of the mantle to the next generation that is prepared to take it up. One of the things I appreciate, especially in the Old Testament, is that the stories are so unvarnished. Elijah, looked up to for millennia, is so completely human. We see the strength of his great faith and obedience, and yet we occasionally see him slide into whining and feeling sorry for himself. He is honest, yet sometimes his bluntness puts people off, especially people who would be good to win over. He gets frustrated. So frustrated that he decides to quit his ministry. But given time to recover and pray and discern, he continues as God leads him. At some point in his work as a prophet, he encounters a younger man named Elisha, and Elisha becomes so attached to Elijah that he can't shake him. Elisha learns from the best. He learns the hardship of ministry, the wonderful victories of ministry, the painfulness of ministry, and the healing joys of ministry. And so Elisha becomes a student of Elijah. He takes in what Elijah says and does. The scriptures are opened to Elisha. And he commits himself to speaking the truth about God, both to regular folks and to, well, some of your regular folks. He follows the footsteps of the faithful. And while following this well-trod path of an authentic disciple of God, Elisha experiences the powerful and flaming fire of Yahweh. 3 times Elijah tells Elijah to stop, wait for him, and not follow him as he journeys to Jericho and then to Bethel and finally to the Jordan River. And 3 times Elisha says, as Yahweh lives and as you live, I will not leave you. And by steadfastly following the great prophet, Elisha is a witness to a final scene like none other in the Bible. Elijah knows his task on earth is finished and he's ready to go to the Lord. And he asks Elijah, what can I do for you before I'm taken? This is such a common question for those nearing death in the company of those they love. What can I say to you? What can I tell you? What can I do for you to make your life better before I join the saints above? And the thing that Elisha wants more than anything else is the kind of spirit, the kind of spiritual integrity, the kind of spiritual strength that fills the man he has been following. And Elijah admits this is a hard thing to give as an inheritance. It's so much easier to bequeath a piece of land or a certificate of deposit or worldly possessions. But how do you give someone your spirituality? And they continue walking and talking, and then it happens. Suddenly, a chariot of fire and horses of fire appear. And fire is often associated with the one true God. Moses heard God's voice from a bush that was on fire. The Hebrews followed a pillar of fire as into the wilderness during the night. And fire danced over the heads of the followers of Jesus Christ at Pentecost. The fire came from heaven in the form of a chariot and horses, and the fire is what finally separated Elisha from Elijah. And he could no longer follow Elijah because the great prophet was then taken up into heaven and ruled. It must have been a stunning moment to see the display of God's power and love that embraced the prophet and took him home. And then, in a touching display of fealty, Elijah picks up the cloak of Elijah and goes back to the bank of the Jordan River. If he is like so many of us who grieve a loved one who has made a difference in our lives, who has been a beacon of faith, who has guided us, Elisha must have been standing there on the bank of the Jordan River with mixed feelings. And while grateful for all he had been given, grateful that his master was now with the Lord, he must have wondered, well, what do I do now? He probably felt alone, maybe abandoned by Elijah. maybe even abandoned by God. Because he asks, where is Yahweh, the God of Elijah? And in a wonderful way, God answers, I am here. I am with you. And I am in you. Elisha is shown this when he takes Elijah's cloak and strikes the water of the Jordan River, and it's divided from left to right. And Elijah walks over to the other side. And with the fire of God in him, he continues the work. And this story, I think, is such a wonderful lesson for us. The faithful in our lives are a gift. They help to show us the way of God. And while we can't be them, we can take their greatest lessons and attitudes and love and continue the work of God, emboldened by their example. Elisha was no Elijah, but he had other kinds of work to do, and he had new footprints to make. He took God's fire, and he did what he was called to do, just like Elijah did when he accepted God's desire for him. Every one of us can be inspired by someone of faith. And every one of us can be inspirational to someone else in our faith. Our Christian witness is shared by the ways in which we deal with the storms of life, the ways in which we speak God's saving love, the ways in which we navigate the deep rivers and the heat of the desert places in our lives. And so let us be aware of the footprints we leave behind, that others will follow. Let us be aware of the fire of God within us and before us, leading us on and leading us